communication technology, in terms of the creative work industries. People like Royal Johnson, who is a brilliant writer. I think he's a genius in terms of his writing. He might be a little cuss bored and thing, but he good.
Yeah, he's good.
But the writers, the artists, the performers are all need to be protected. And to think we've got people like Eddie Grant, who has been a superstar in terms of world star in terms of his music, and we do not have proper legislation in place to protect that. One of the problems we have is that we don't administer the law. In terms of film, we got Lisa, and in terms of other types of music, we have up-and-coming stars like Lisa Punch and what have you. But we need to do a lot more in terms of the arts, particularly, and in terms of copyright and intellectual property rights. And that's just one aspect of it. You've got a whole host of other things that need to be done. If you were to ask me about the telecommunications sector, you will find out that, we've got to find out what kind of satellite orbital spaces we have to distribute signals throughout Guyana, to use the internet and to use telecommunications in a way that would grow and develop societies. I found it intriguing that the People's Progressive Party was talking about the lack of voter education, or the need for voter education. The GCOM needs to do voter education. Why? Because the People's Progressive Party is saying that there are certain areas in Guyana, riverine, rural communities, who are not reached by television and radio. And this is the party that gave away radio frequencies left, right, and center to friends, family, and favorites. So one has to ask oneself whether there was a national plan with regard to how radio, television, cable, the internet shall be used in the society, and how the private sector and the public sector can grow and develop that particular area. The same thing in the creative industries, the same thing in retailing, the same thing in distribution. And you can't have distribution unless you have roads, and you can't have proper distribution unless you have air facilities that move, and the instruments that are necessary to make sure that you can track and do the things that are necessary in our society. It still bothers me, Selwyn, that we talk a lot about the internet and what have you, and the president's son, Alexei, is given a cable to put down between Lethem and Georgetown, and up to now we can't see the cable tying up rope to boats and all kind of worries. The whole project has not worked. It has failed, for want of a better word.
How much?
And this same person is being elected, is being put up onto a list of electors by the ruling party. And you have people who are supposed to be intelligent trying to defend that. If we are going to talk about the development of our society, we should be able to move in terms of ICT. We should be able to move our data between Moruca and Georgetown at the same speed as if we were able to move it between Georgetown and Michigan. Why is it that our internet speeds can work out with the outside connections, and within Guyana we have problems? If you were to talk to the telephone companies and the providers, they will complain about the lack of proper division in terms of frequencies to do the kind of work to bring the G's, the 4G or the 5G or the 6G, whatever G they want.
So there's a big problem
to the society. So in terms of telecommunications, in terms of as I said, in terms of information communication, we need to have some kind of plan that the society as a whole will grow and develop in just that sector alone. In terms of creative industries, the same thing. In terms of infrastructure, the same thing. In terms of taxation, the same thing. You're paying a whole set of money for taxes.
You're not getting any benefits.
And you're walking outside in the yard and running, going nowhere.
Euclid Mitchell in the chat room said, my question is what steps are being undertaken to empower the masses to be able to accept and embrace change that is inevitable?
I think the steps that are being taken are taken by persons who are saying, look, these are the things that are necessary to move the country forward, to move the country into the future. These are the two areas. If you're going to look at the issues, you have the ruling party saying, this is what we have done and this is where we want to go. You have the major majority coalition saying, this is what has been done by the other side that has not benefited everybody, and these are the areas we need to work on and we need to move forward on, in terms of education, in terms of intellectual property, as I said, and various other areas that they are looking at in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the rice and sugar industries, bauxite industry, the Amerindian communities, the need for the society to grow and develop as a whole and not in part.
How do we, and here comes the question though, about our diversity. How do we develop in such a diverse society? Can Guyana afford to ignore its various diversities? Its social, its political, it's economic, especially because of the economic strata that exists in Guyana, the widening gaps. How does Guyana fill those gaps?
Here's the problem, Selvin. I think one of the things we've had in the country is that we celebrate our diversity to the detriment of the development of the society, rather than celebrate our diversity to the benefit of the development of the society. We need to celebrate the diversity in such a way that the society grows and develops. What we have is, we love to talk about this land of 6 races and where we have come from and what have you. I point out to people, notwithstanding 1896, when my great-grandmother from my mother's side walked off the ship from India and decided that she see a nice man who had come in to work as a porter from Barbados and get together with him, and by 1903 my grandmother was born out of a society where one person came from Asia and the other person came from Africa by way of Barbados. And all sorts of things used to happen in Barbados. The white people used to mix with the black people and so on. So there's a whole set of mixtures in the society. So since then, we've had, at least from my side, from my maternal grandparents' side, we've had that kind of diversity and mixtures going on. From my father's side, the same thing. And there are several other families that could tell you of that kind of lineage. Yet you are pigeonholed into, this is what you look like and this is how we will treat you as a result of what you look like. based on the definition of people of Indian origin, I should fall into that definition because the Indian law, the what you call it, the Indian government website says people of Indian origins, once you could trace one grandparent going back 2 generations. But it does not matter.
Yeah.
And our society should see all of us as Guyanese, all of us as persons who have a stake in the development and growth of the country. It should not matter who is what, but we like to celebrate that. And in celebrating that aspect of it, we do it to the detriment of development. If we celebrate it to ensure that we have development, then that is a good thing. But we do it usually as a bad thing.
Again, we go back to the youth. It seems as though the youth of today seem to have it right. They're having interracial relationships, from what I understand. Interracial.
Oh, come on, Selwyn. I told you, but since 1896, that ain't happening. At least in my family.
But even more open now, in spite of all the racial tensions or I guess efforts to guide people away from those kinds of interactions.
Look, let's just call a spade a spade. I think one of the reasons the diaspora is concerned, as you were saying, that we're not sure change is going to happen because we see race from this part of the world as being important. Probably because you guys live in a society that is so conscious about whether a black man will get shot or not, or whether the police will stop him for a broken tail light, and that's not what you're really stopping him for. You know, I think we've got to call a spade a spade. We have to start looking at societies, particularly our society, as a society that is a Guyanese society and not a Indo-Guyanese or Afro-Guyanese or an Amerindian Guyanese and what have you. In fact, I facetiously and flippantly used to say, if we have a Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, why can't we have a Ministry of African Guyanese Affairs? But that would be MAGA for short. You know, so, or a Ministry of Indian Affairs or Ministry of Chinese Affairs, it is folly, really.
Yeah.
You could have a Ministry of Hinterland Development or what have you. But what we do is we pander to these things in our society, and we say that these things are important. Of course, one wants to identify in terms of ethnicity. You could feel free to identify with whoever you want to identify with, right? But it should not be a debilitating influence on development. That's all I say.
What truly troubles you?
That was what troubles me. I just said it. The fact that we look at our society as a society where Indians can benefit and blacks don't benefit, and if blacks get in, blacks will benefit and Indians will not benefit, and this, you know, it even bothers me that we hark back to days of yore when this was banned and so on, and depending on which side of the street you're standing, you would name the products that were banned or restricted that were culturally aligned to what your ethnicity is. So you have people saying, well, aloo was banned, as if other people didn't eat potatoes. You know, flour was banned, as if other people didn't eat bread. You know, chana was banned, as if other people didn't have hard chana.
Yes.
You know, split peas was banned, as if cocoa wasn't affected. You know, we need to look at our society as a society that is upright, that is morally sound, that is transparent, and that has accountability, and that grows and develops every aspect of the country in a way that the entire country benefits. That's all I keep saying. Once people feel that they're not part of it,
what are some
we run into problems.
What are some things we can do to implement that? We do have conversations from time to time. Do you recommend more conversations? What would be some of your recommendations to start a movement in that direction?
Well, I think a movement has started in terms of how people are viewing this election. And I think that's why some people are optimistic that change can happen.
Yes.
I think a movement has started in terms of how persons will have to be accountable for what they've done or what they are going to do.
Enrico, somebody has asked me to ask you this question, but I'm asking you this way. You've been a journalist for many years and so on, an entrepreneur. Have you ever considered running for political office?
I might run away from it. No, that's a flippant answer. What is political office? What is politics? Politics is the art of governing. It's not just having power. It is how the society is governed. And I think as a journalist, I've played my part in ensuring that the society is governed in a way that everybody benefits.
Do you?
And I think it is necessary. Our concentration on accountability, our concentration on the narco trade in terms of capital news, our concentration on youth and business development, those are areas that I think persons needed to know. My personal campaign in terms of intellectual property and the creative industries in the country, you know, those are areas I think people need to operate and concentrate rather. And I think those are areas where we were able to question, I was able to question how the society is governed and made a contribution. It might have been small, a contribution into how persons looked at the society. I think were it not for Capital News and the work that we did with regard to Dr. Ramsamy claiming that he didn't sign that letter that clearly connected him to the Phantom Squads. The society may not have been aware of that, and it helped in terms of governance.
How does one find Capital News?
Sorry, say again?
How does one find Capital News? It's online?
It's online, www.capitalnews with an O, CAPITOL, news, TOL, news, gy.com or capitalnewsonline.com, and you can see some of the stories that we've covered.
Yes, what keeps you going when it gets rough with Enrico?
I like the work I'm doing, and therefore it's not work.
What's next for you?
So what is next for me is to look at what will happen in terms of the post-May 11 period and continue to serve Guyana in a way that I could make a meaningful contribution to the society. And I think I'm looking forward to whatever happens after May 11th so that the society can move. The society can breathe, the society can grow and develop.
Last question, my brother. Do you personally believe, Guyana has a likely chance at change?
It is likely. It is likely. And when you put your ears to the ground, you're hearing that. Of course, the people who are in power at the moment, who by the way claim they're not power hungry, claim they're not grabbing for power, but they want to make sure they go in for the next time. They will prance and palance that, you know, yes, everything is hunky-dory, but I think there is some concern in that camp that there is a movement on that may result in them losing power. Just me.
Any final words to diaspora?
Well, I think the diaspora needs to be engaged, needs to continue to be engaged, not to create a dependency syndrome, not to give the impression that all good things come it from up north. What they need to do is to ensure that the society is accountable, the society is transparent, and the society is efficient.
Before you go, we have two questions in the chat room. Because, Euclid Mitchell, because of the diversity in our society, it would be difficult to have all aboard to ensure a successful change process. How do you see a new administration addressing their various needs and agenda?
You know, I don't necessarily agree that because of the diversity it is going to be difficult. I think in any group, in any organization, you need to have people with diverse connections, diverse histories, and bring them together in a way, and that's leadership. That is where leadership comes in, and use the resources that you have. And I think the real problem is that we don't use the resources unless we think that those resources are loyal to our cause.
Raphael asked, should we be making laws that affirm social trust so that economic benefits are more evenly distributed?
If Raphael means in terms of legislating morality, you really can't do that. But what you could do is legislate in such a way that persons could be prevented from doing things that will be immoral, irregular, and illegal.
On that note, I want to thank you again for coming. You know, you're always welcome at CWS, and have a safe trip, your next leg of your journey. And thank you very much, Enrico. This is Selwyn Collins saying thank you for listening. Fear not what fear whispers to you, fear your obedience to it. Good night.